Pura wipes. 100% plastic free, 100% biodegradable. Order now at mypura.com.
Tonight is a very special night called G and Friends, brought to you by Pura, and we are focusing on motherhood, obviously, because that's what we do, and the things that people don't tell you, because I think we get so much advice, which is always conflicting, but the useful things to know we actually don't get told that often. And I have loved doing this event and putting it all together, and we love every year just going out and taking Have My Baby on the road and seeing people, and I think it's something really special about being in a room with people, having people on stage sharing stuff, and having the audience reaction of having a thought that that person in the audience heard on stage or said out loud, and realizing that they're not on their own, that so many of the things that we experience isn't something that's just on us and that everyone else has felt it. And it's such an amazing environment in those shows, and everyone just comes together, and like, it's hilarious and beautiful and amazing, and I wish that we could bottle it up and give it to new parents and parents-to-be, because I think it would get us all through, especially during these weird times of COVID and everything like that. But we can't do that. We can't be together. So I've done what I can. We've created this, and I've got some amazing women to join me tonight. So please welcome Rosie Ramsey, Frankie Bridge, Fern McCann, and Jess Jones. Hi.
Hi.
Are you all scared to talk because you've just been told not to talk over each other?
Yes. Holding it back, thinking I don't want to interrupt someone right here, but yeah.
Well, I guess if we're talking about things that we wish we had known or that people hadn't told us, I guess maybe we should take it straight back to pregnancy and all the things that happen in pregnancy that we weren't told. And Rosie, I guess we should probably start off with you and your boobs right now. I think that's a good place to take that.
I knew you'd do that, you little pinker. Yeah, I have got the itchiest nipples in the world. So far, so much in fact that I've angled this camera deliberately that when people are talking, I can just sit here and have a good scratch. They are driving me around the bend. I swear. They were not this itchy first time round. They're massive as well. Do they get bigger the second time? Is that a thing? Is that true? Massive, like this. They're like this big. I'd show you, but I'm not tonight. But yeah,
it's become like what we're talking.
Like
a
like about that. About that, honestly, massive. Like, Chris can't believe it. Chris is like, your nipples are huge. I'm like, mate, I know. And I've still got another 12 weeks to go. They're gonna like be at my face next week. Like, I'm gonna be walking around with a bit of areola just round my mouth, like fully blown. But yeah, so all the joys currently going on.
That is amazing. Yeah. I've got to say as well, actually, before we carry on, that you can leave us comments and questions as well. So if we're saying something, you're like, oh my gosh, that reminds me of this that I didn't know beforehand, then please just write in and let us know, and maybe we'll talk about it at further one of our points. Also, there's a slight chance that there might be some bad language used tonight. So apologies in advance, or a warning, because that's just what happens really sometimes when people get together and talk about motherhood and the hilarity of it all. So did anyone have stuff in pregnancy? Fern, you had quite a good pregnancy, didn't you? I remember you saying how you loved it.
Yeah, I had a really good experience with pregnancy, and it was pretty straightforward, if I'm honest. I had like zero expectations, and if I'm honest, I wasn't super maternal before falling pregnant, and I'm still not really now, if I'm honest. Like, I love my child, but when anyone else is like, I'm pregnant, I'm like, congratulations. I'm not like that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I understand now how special it is after having one, but yeah, I mean, no expectations, and it was pretty straightforward. So, and I really, really did learn on the job. Like, I'm sure everyone else, but I just turned to the internet and to my friends and to my mum and was like, is this normal? Like, everything was just a surprise to me, and yeah, just took it in my stride, really.
I'd love to go back to, I think actually every child that I've had at newborn stage, and look at my Google search history, because I think there would be some corkers in there.
Yeah.
Like, but I think for me, in terms of breast, I think my massive surprise for me early on, one of them was breastfeeding, and I only realised when I was expressing, and the old, so much of it goes into the thing first of all, and how many holes. And how much was shooting out, and how far it can go, and how much you can get in your baby's face or shoot across the table. There's like, it's weird learning parts, like learning things about your body that you didn't even know was a thing, but it's your body.
Yeah. I thought there was one hole in the middle, and that's where it came out of.
Yeah,
I still do that. I'm learning something right now.
Mate, there's like 5 or 6 holes that literally it just all comes out.
When you're in the shower, you're like watching under your boob.
Yeah, Jess is lactating right now, so
I can show you afterwards. Don't worry, I'll show you how it all works.
I actually went to a breastfeeding expert when I was filming for my show, and I just went and basically learned how to breastfeed when I was still pregnant. And I was really grateful because I've never heard of that, and still now friends, I've never heard anyone to go to a breastfeeding expert. And she was literally on speed dial, because we're talking about things that they never tell you. I think with friends and my sister, they talk about the birth and the ring of fire and this and that, but no one ever tells you about when your milk comes in. Like, I never had this conversation with anyone, even going to see a breastfeeding expert. And I literally stood in the shower and I said to my mum, because I moved back home, wise decision that I made, stood in the shower, I was like, Mum, they're like concrete bricks, and the amount of milk that is coming out, the size that they are, I'm really confused.
That's so true.
I was like, is it all? She's like, think of your baby and it will come flowing out. And I was like, it's not happening.
Well, there's also that moment where you give birth and you're like, oh, I can sleep in my front again. This is amazing. And then your milk comes in and you're like, nah, that's not happening.
No, I didn't realize that they would like leak like they do. Like, I had this moment that still like haunts me to this day, where it was with Parker, so it was my first, and I was like, just had knickers on, and they were like those massive ones, because I'd had a C-section, so they were like up under my boobs. I still had like my little saggy pouch from where I just had him, and I didn't have a bra on. I just got out the shower and I didn't really think about it, and I was changing his nappy, and then my boobs started leaking, and for some reason I thought putting bits of like cotton wool on my nipples would like they'd stay there. So I was like trying to wipe it with his thumb, trying to block my nipples, and my dog came in at the time, pooed on the floor in my son's nursery. And then I was like, right, this isn't happening. My sister came in and was like, oh my God, what's happening? So I just ran out of the bedroom into her boyfriend at the time, who now had seen me in my massive mum knickers with my leaky boobs. Like, I'm sorry. I was like, I've ruined women for him for like the rest of his life. It was
I mean, there's a high chance that he probably like fancied you years before, and then was probably like, oh, I've seen her in a new light.
Killed it.
You know, like,
I don't think the things would stick to my nipples. I don't know why in that moment. Just like,
But it's that thing, isn't it? When you cut yourself shaving, a little bit of tissue, put it on it. Tissue stays on there.
yes.
So-
yeah, that is true.
Yeah.
Done it
Yeah.
literally the other
Maybe-
day.
Yeah.
Really? Bloody kills.
Good.
Rosie,
I
you
haven't
are
shaved my legs in
currently,
so long, I can't remember. Yeah.
you're obviously currently pregnant.
Yes.
Are you feeling anything now that you're kind of like, oh yeah, I remember this, and I wasn't warned?
It's so funny because it seems so long ago when I had Robin, so it's coming up to 5 years, and I feel like a new mom again. And I don't know about like Fern, that you had that like amazing pregnancy. I'm so jealous because I am just the shittest pregnant person ever because I just whinge all the time. My back hurts, like my boobs are itchy. I can't walk very far because I'm out of breath and I'm unfit. And I'm like a little whale in the house, and I just do not like being pregnant at all. And I'm so envious of women who love it because I love being a mom and I cannot wait to meet the baby. I'm so excited, but honestly, just skip them 9 months. Like I would just take 3 weeks pregnancy and that would be great, and then just have the baby. I'd be like, oh, but
I
no.
like your backstory.
Yeah. It's so hard though, isn't it? Because I feel so lucky, so lucky, especially because there's so many people at the moment who I know who are losing babies and who cannot get pregnant. So I feel like the luckiest person in the world. And like I say, I can't wait to be a mom, but pregnancy does not come naturally to me at all. So 3 months. 3 months to go. Yes.
And it's not really, it's even short, like weeks. It's weeks, Rosie, you know what I mean? Don't worry, focus on weeks, and then it feels so much better.
Yeah, 12 weeks. And then I'm hoping, because I'm having a C-section because Robin was so big, and I'm hoping, my mum's told us that it'll not happen in a million years, but I'm hoping that I'm going to go to the doctor and he's going to be like, oh, Mrs. Ramsey, you're ready to go now, like 4 weeks early. And I'll be like, oh, really? It's not going to happen, but one can hope and pray. So we'll see.
Jess, were there any surprises like for you actually in the delivery or meeting like the birthing stages, whether you had cesareans or like however the babies come out? Because you've had it 3 now, and I think you go in thinking it's going to be something.
Yeah, I've had 3 C-sections, which is like, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest surprise that I'm just like, it was all just a mess, wasn't it? Like, I think the biggest surprise for me was that your body can do such an incredible thing. And I know it sounds so silly to think that, but every little thing about it, I was like, oh my gosh, the baby has fingernails. And like every little detail, I just kept thinking how incredible this journey was. And I didn't have particularly great births. I was quite poorly, so I ended up with C-section. So, I mean, the third one I had 2 days before lockdown, which was an experience. It's gonna maybe skip me for this question.
Mate, I got pregnant in lockdown. It was the mug. What? Oh gosh.
But I think there is that massive. I think there's that massive thing though, because there's so much focus on having a plan. But I think the best plan that you can have when it comes to having a baby is to know that plan means nothing. Do you know what I mean? You have to be prepared to get rid of that plan completely and not feel so like locked in by it that anything else feels like almost a failure, because it's not.
I agree. I think when
I definitely felt
you really like set in place and you fixate on that, if it doesn't go to plan, you're gonna inevitably feel disappointed. That's why, I mean, I've had one experience of giving birth, and fortunately it was a pleasant one. But I think where I had I'm no mum of the year, but where I had my biggest tip would be like where I had no expectations, I literally went in, fairly laid back, and I was looking forward to it, apprehensive, but I did not have a birthing plan. My sister kept saying, you've got to write one. And I thought, but what? Like, I don't even know what's going to happen. So how can I write a birthing plan when I'm going to have the baby? It's going to have to come out one way or another, whether that's, you know, naturally or through a C-section. So what will be, will be.
Yeah. I agree. I had an emergency C-section with Robin, and it wasn't until I was lying in bed 2 days later that I Googled cesarean sections, and I watched a video on YouTube, and I was like, yeah, they did what? And once I had to cut through all these layers, and I was like, I'm so glad that I didn't expect to have one at all. I was like, natural, no drugs, mug. And
so how do you feel now, though, knowing that that's what you're going to be going for? Like, how do you know? Like, how do you feel knowing that that's happening?
It's a bit scary because sections, I think a lot of people think that they're like the easy way out, but the recovery is really intense. And Robin was huge, so my scar was like massive. And I just know this time round, I'm going to spend a lot more time in bed, and I'm going to let people do a lot more, because first time round, I was like, I remember my mum being here and she was like, go back to bed. I was like, no, I'm fine. Walking around in absolute agony. And now I'm going to be like, hi, Mum, here's the baby. Do you know what I mean? And hi, Dad. Hi, hello, Mr. Milkman. Do you like babies? So that's what I'm going to do this time.
But that's a huge thing. I think
I YouTube C-section. I just the night before, I don't know why, I just have this real like weird thing where I like torture myself apparently, and I just was really curious, so I YouTubed it, and then I was like, why did I do that? What was I thinking? Yeah, don't do that, kid. I don't think it's too late for you now. You've already seen.
I've done it now, haven't I?
Like there does seem to be the real thing of like, oh, you had a C-section a lot of the time, and people kind of think that is the easy way out. And like Fern said, it's like they come out two ways. They've got to come out. So whatever one is a birth.
But it's major abdominal surgery. Like, there's no two ways about it. Do you know what I mean? Either you've pushed the baby out your foof and you need to recover, or you've had this major surgery and you need to recover. And I think that's a huge area that I really did not think about beforehand, is that recovery time and allowing you to recover. I think we all just want to straight away be like, I'm Superman, I've done this, I wanted a baby, I've got a baby, I can do everything, I don't need anyone to help me because I can do the washing, unload the dishwasher and feed my baby too. But actually, you need to sit down, love.
You need a sleep. Yeah.
I had this obsession, and it was less with myself and more with one of my friends, that we all have this obsession with going back to who we were before. Like, oh, I don't really feel myself yet, or I don't feel like I was before yet. And it wasn't until, because you know you always say the nicer things to your friends than you do to yourself, it wasn't until one of my friends was really struggling that I was like, but you're not going to be who you were before now. And I don't mean just physically, but mentally, you're never going to be that person you was before you had a baby. And I have, as a society, have this real obsession with being exactly the same as we were before kids. Like, just because I'm a mum, I can still do this and I can still look like that, and my life's not going to change. And then we put all this pressure on ourselves, and I think we feel like we're failing when we don't achieve all of those things. And I could really see it in one of my friends. And when I said that to her, she said it was like a real light bulb moment. And I was like, but why wasn't I that kind to myself? I've spent years thinking I have to be the Frankie I was before I had my kids. But I'm like, that person is still there, obviously. But now I'm mum Frankie, and I'm not going to be the same, you know.
Well, don't you think there's that weird thing though, where we say it's almost said as to someone who's getting above themselves, oh, you've changed. Like, I'm not so if you're still the same person you were when you were 18, or like you're a bit of a twat. Like, how have you not changed? How have these monumental things happened in your life and you have not adjusted? Do you know what I mean? You have to adjust. There's no way you can just stay linear. Things happen and they knock you around and they make you a different person. They have to.
Yeah,
I think
agree.
the problem with motherhood is it's the adjustment happens so quickly. So with anything else, so if you were in a new job, you've got time to get used to it, time to deal with things. Whereas when you become a mum, it's like instantaneous. You're like, oh, everything's changed and I've got to adjust to this now. But I think the last, 2020 as a whole has proven to all of us that we can adjust far better than we think we can, and give ourselves more credit. I was really worried that I had the baby 2 days before lockdown and I was like, oh my gosh, no one's going to be able to visit. What am I going to do? Oh my gosh, it was the best thing ever. Like, I didn't have to worry about my house being tidy. I didn't have to worry about making anyone a cup of tea. I literally just sat in my pants with a baby boob and the other 2 kids ran around feral. It was the best time ever. And then eventually when my mum was allowed to visit after 3 months, I was like, you can come now. Come into this crazy place and help me. But I think I always say to people, the best thing to do, especially after you've just had a baby, is only invite people who can make their own cup of tea. So if someone's going to come around and visit your new baby and you have to get up and make them a cup of tea, they're not welcome. So work colleagues, people that you're not that close to, that you'll treat as a guest. But if your best mate or your mum or your auntie is going to come round and they're going to bring some food and they're going to make you a cup of tea, they are the people that are welcome in that time. So you can really just relax. You don't feel like you have to host. Because I still feel like we feel like that, don't we? I must make everything clean and sort this out. And it's like, just sit in your pants and just chill out.
Exactly. I agree.
It's so
I want to
true.
stay in hospital longer this time. That's my plan.
I got kicked out the next day.
What?
Yeah, I had a C-section at 10 a.m. on Friday, and then I got kicked out on Saturday, and then we went into lockdown on Monday.
See, I'm hoping the
They
doctors.
just wanted less people in the hospital. But to be fair, I was fine to go home. They didn't literally kick me out. Like, they didn't just throw me out.
I want them to tell me I've got to stay for 3 weeks.
I think what you've just said though. I think what you've just said though will make so many people feel relieved, because I think there are so many restrictions and stuff at the moment, and things are changing. People don't know when it comes to birth partners and stuff. That's changing. It depends what trust you're in and stuff. And I think having that point of actually, although you've got to still stay on top of your mental health and things like that, and people do have to check it up on you and check in, is that thing of the pressure has left. In terms of, you don't have to perform I'm a good mum to anyone. You have time to just be with your baby and get to know each other a little bit more, I think. Because I'm guessing all of us. And I'm guessing all of us had that thing where people came over and we performed. Like, I've got this. There's only certain people that I let my guard down with, and they were my siblings.
Even in the hospital, I just want to reassure anyone that you do. Like, I only had my husband for my C-section, then he went home. But I really want to reassure everyone that actually, even with the couple of women that I was with, there was this real closeness. And actually, it was quite nice that nobody had visitors, because it was really quiet. There was no one coming in and out of the bay. There was no one rushing around. The woman next door didn't have her 6 aunties turn up when you were trying to have a nap. It was just really quiet. And we all just kept going to each other, are you all right, hun? Do you need anything? And because it was just the 4 of us, with no noise and no kind of crazy foot flow, it was really lovely. And the midwives were just angels, as always. But definitely want to just share that reassurance if anyone's due to have a baby, as we're, things are changing. I had him just then, and it was actually really nice to just have that time with just him in the quiet. It was really nice and peaceful. And ultimately, everyone just wants you to be happy and safe, you and your baby. So just to reassure anyone, because that it is, I was really nervous, but actually it was probably the best experience out of the 3 that I've had.
Oh, thank you.
I've got to say, that's lovely.
It's like, but pack some wine, just to make sure.
Well, someone asked on Instagram earlier, what do you wish you'd been warned about before labour or birth? So I guess, like, not right now is not to worry, not to panic about. You've got to kind of go with it and not
big pants. Not panic. The biggest knickers ever. Those are my 2 things. Is not to worry, because ultimately everyone around you wants you to be safe and wants your baby to be safe. But just take big pants and snacks.
I also love how different your 3rd experience was to my first, because my first, I was still in the delivery room when somehow, like, I heard my dad's thick Italian accent coming up the stairs. My dad, my mum, and both my in-laws. Well, I'd been stitched up, thankfully, but like I was just trying to breastfeed. I was like, oh no, the baby shall not be fed. Hi everyone. I've got no idea how they ended up on that floor, but they were right there. Amazing. Okay, interesting. So Lee Adams on YouTube has said, yes, only good thing about having my son in June, we got uninterrupted time to bond with him and figure out what fresh hell we'd been dumped into. And that's another thing. So I think we all think it's going to be amazing. Like, my version of what motherhood was going to be like, I was Oxo Mum. I was Maria from The Sound of Music. I was Mary Poppins. I was Miss Honey. Like, but in reality, I didn't know what on earth I was doing with this baby who had no way of communicating with me other than squawking for everything.
Yeah.
I think
Fern, how did you feel? Fern, how did you feel?
Oh, sorry. Yes, I think people talk about the mother's instinct, and that was something that I was really scared about not having. It was a big fear of mine, not being able to bond with my baby, and thinking, like, I really remember during my pregnancy having not sleepless nights, but just thinking, what's the baby going to look like? Like, am I going to love it? Because I didn't find out what sex. And I know that sounds really mean almost, but that was a really big fear. Like, everyone talks about this unconditional love, that they get this rush and gush of love. And I was like, what if I'm the odd one out? What if I don't get that? And obviously I did. From the moment I gave birth, and funnily enough, because Sunday's 3 in 2 days after Halloween, and I keep thinking about her birth recently so much, and it gives me the most warm, cozy feeling. I don't know if it's like that for you ladies, but I really get this. I've never experienced anything quite like it. It was so just cozy, and I've lost my train of thought because I'm like now thinking about my birth.
Well, what's interesting is, so for me, I would say that my first one just felt really overwhelming. Like, I was literally like, I do not like, this is, whereas my second and third, I had that feeling of coziness, of like, this is how it's meant to be, like, we are meant to be together. But my first, I was like, oh my God. And even though everything went straightforward and it was an amazing labour, I still had this feeling of like, what is this?
I think for me, I had, I guess, a really unique situation with birthing partners, and knowing that I was going to be a single parent from the moment my baby was born. And honestly, and because I had this conversation with my friend Danielle, who also had a baby in lockdown, which I think, by the way, is pretty cool, because that baby is going to be part of history. But I know, obviously, your idea of what you thought your pregnancy and labour would be like is taken away due to COVID. But I think it's pretty cool that they'll be like part of history. But I said to her, like, we was talking about our labours, and she was like, Fern, no, I never had my mum there, which is what she planned. She said her partner he was in the room for so long, and then he went. And I was like, wow, I feel really, grateful and fortunate that my birthing partner was my mum, and I had no other choice. Like, that was going to be my birthing partner. And I think I've had one baby, and I didn't have that fear because I had my mum. And as much as, she literally just guided me and coached me through, that I wasn't scared. So it wasn't that, oh, what do I do with this baby? Because she literally was like, come here. I've got literally, I mean, she co-parents Sunday with me. So I guess I was kind of fortunate in that sense that I had my mum and have my mum through every single step of my parenting experience.
Me too. I had my mum there, and I'm so glad, because my husband Chris was so shit. like unbelievably. He went out the room 4 times, separate times, to ring my friends to cry. Like,
I just
honestly,
don't think they're prepared.
he was not prepared at all. And I'm so glad that my mum was there. Like, don't get me wrong, it was lovely that he was there, and I'm praying that come January he's going to be there. We'll see what happens, but mums are great. If you can get to have your mum there, I would definitely recommend that. My mum was ace. Bless her. Chris,
I'd love to have had mum. I had my husband, and I remember having my C-section. He was going, just breathe. You're doing really well. I was like, I'm not doing anything, mate. Literally just lying there. Breathe. Yes, he was like, you're doing so good. I was like, I'm not doing anything. He's like, this is what they told me to tell you. Yeah, but I'm not in labour. I'm just lying there. He's like, you're doing so good. Like on the side of my head, while I'm just lying. Honestly, God. Yeah, mums are best. They're just golden. They're golden.
Yeah. I do always think about partners during. Sorry, G.
Yeah. No, carry on.
Oh no, I do always spare a little thought for partners during labour, because I think we're going through it and it's really hard and it's difficult, but we're managing it. I think to watch someone you love in pain must be horrific, you know. So bless him, even though he cried a few times.
Well, and being so helpless.
Yeah.
And things like they can't do anything. They just have to literally, like Tom just ate jelly babies the whole time. That was him helping. Yeah. Really good. Frank, did your recovery surprise you at all? And do you felt like you gave yourself the time to recover?
I think with my first, I can't really remember. I remember thinking, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Like, you know, everyone was like, oh, you're not going to be able to pick the baby up and stuff like that. And by the time I was home, I was like, this is okay. Obviously, I was slow and it was sore, but you definitely overdo it really easily, I think, because you're taking painkillers and you're like, I feel fine. And then, you know, you feel like someone's kicked you in your foof, like, because you're like, oh, it's so achy. But I think with my second, probably not, because I was so paranoid about Parker feeling left out, or, you know, I was so emotional about that and everything. But I think with C-section as well, I thought the second one would be exactly the same as the first, but actually I found it a lot more full. And a lot harder to recover from than I did with my first, and I honestly thought it would be the other way round, because I was like, well, I've done this before and it was fine. Sorry.
I thought I'd have a little walk in the park. Here's a quick question: Do they cut the same line, or do they cut a different one? Same.
No, mine's different. No, mine's just under. So I've got 3. They're pretty much all together, but 3. Tiny little.
Right, okay.
Longer, because they've got scar tissue to like deal with. So like the more you have, the more scar tissue there is. But I didn't realise when we went in for a C-section that, like, with my second, my waters broke. So I was like walking down to surgery, basically pissing myself as I was like walking down the corridor. And I was like, no, like, I can't do this. So I made them wheel me down, because I was like, this is embarrassing, like, just in me down, like an old lady, like, weird as I go. And then, like, you lay there.
Saturdays, pissing myself in the hospital.
And you just lay there, like, fully naked in a room full of people. And I was like, I remember just looking up to Wayne and saying, I'm practically just laying on a bed pissing myself in front of everyone. Like, it was just the weirdest thing ever. Just like no dignity. And I thought there would be more with the C-section, but there's none.
Great.
I think your dignity kind of goes out of the window. Your dignity just goes out the window, I think. From the moment you step into that room, it just leaves you. And I'm not entirely sure when you get it back. Like, a midwife, I can remember a midwife coming over and kind of I definitely wanted her to just check my stitches out, which leads me on to another thing. I could not leave my mirror alone. Like, I did not want to look. But at the same time, I couldn't not. For me, it's that thing. Yeah. Not pretty. And I think actually, it doesn't matter where you have stitches. All you can think about is your stitches.
Yeah.
Like, are they healing right? What are they doing? Is this? I can't. Like, I know my sister had a C-section, and she's constantly freaked out by the fact that she's still numb in a certain place, or there's a bump there. Yeah. You know, and you're always questioning stuff.
When you push a baby out of your vagina, does it swell?
Mate, yeah. Swells, it gets bruised, like it's unrecognisable. And actually someone I mean, you've pushed something fairly massive out of there. There's no two ways about it. Although someone did comment earlier on where is it? She wrote about using tampons after giving birth. Well, it's a thing that I do not like. I cannot use tampons anymore. They just are uncomfortable. It's a no-go situation. But I've become obsessed with a moon cup. Really?
Yeah, they're just a hindrance, if I'm honest. And I literally dread the time of the month, every single month. But after having a child and having a natural birth, they just fall out after 5 minutes. Like, I'm not saying that I've got a bucket crutch, but like, after giving birth. So my sister was like, "No, babe, you need to try." And I don't want to do the branding on this, but she was like, "You need to try the ones that when they go wide instead of go long."
Yeah.
But I'm toying with the idea of a moon cup. But my friend told me about the pants. I was like, I mean, I can't even tell you what they are. But
I've got the pants.
So I was loving the pants, absolutely loving the pants, and then after a while, the novelty wore off, and it just reminded me too much of after birth. So then I tried a moon cup, and honestly, moon cups are easy, clean, like you just shove it up and you don't even have to think about it. Honestly.
We're all about
sustainable. We're all about sustainable. We're sponsored by Pura. Sustainability is the way forward. But definitely, it is that thing of it's a weird. I have become obsessed, mate. So literally, and I remember being at drama school and finding the whole idea of them really weird. But it's literally like you fold it, like you put it in you make it into a C shape when you pop it in, then you twist it and you can feel it kind of pop up like a pop-up tent. And then it just kind of holds it all then, there's a nice little bit of suction, and then later on, just wiggle it out a bit, pour it down the loo, give it a wipe, wash, pop it back in. It's really easy.
I need to try it. I've never tried one.
I'm genuinely really interested in this.
You can actually, it says on the box that I got up to 12 hours. So you can literally go. Exactly.
That's amazing.
Honestly, I was all about the pants, but.
Sorry.
As Frankie's moon cup dance.
Frankie's like going to do a moon dance.
It's so viral.
I need to try that.
Honestly.
I could do the other.
I don't want anyone to jinx me. I've not had mine back yet, so I don't want anyone to jinx me. I don't want them back. Yeah, please.
I have not missed mine.
A tampon pad leaking on my knees and my bed sheets. I feel like you've sold me a moon cup, Jane.
There we go. If tonight has done anything, guys. So Sophie on YouTube. Sophie on YouTube has said, I had an emergency C-section 8 months ago now. I'm a size 10 petite woman, but I still have a huge indent where my scar is. Any of you C-section mummies, have you got similar problems? So she's got an indent.
I had a hematoma. So I got like a blister, like a blood vessel like build up. And I was sat on the loo having a Victorian wash, like a jug wash, because I didn't want to go in the shower. And I turned around. If it's, yeah, I'm one of them. At the same time. Yeah. And I turned around to like, I think I was getting the jug or something, and it burst on the floor. So it kind of like squirted open, like bleh, like Halloween. And then so now I've got like where my scarf, that's why I'm worried about the line, because mine kind of goes in at the end. So it like kind of goes, and then it indents, and that's one thing I've found about being pregnant. And it's 5 years later, but with the section, when I go for a walk, my scar hurts. Like it genuinely, it's sore. Yeah. It's so strange. So, don't know, weird and wonderful.
Mine's
but yeah, they do.
Yeah, I've got the
they do get a bit smaller.
Yeah, I was pregnant a year after. So I was pregnant a year after my second C-section, because I'm crazy. And I was really worried about it. And when it hurt, just like after you got it done, were you scared to cough? You know, when you cough, you're like, because you feel like your whole insides are going to fall out. You're like, oh no, don't make me cough, don't make me cough, don't make me laugh. But I think that's totally normal with the indent and stuff, because I've definitely got that. But I always say to friends, mine's the same, but if you're ever worried, just go and ask your if she's only got an 8-month-old, just to have her health visitor, won't she? So just ask, and nothing's weird to ask. I think have the confidence to ask, even if it feels weird in your head to say out loud. Someone somewhere has asked it before, so it doesn't matter how strange the question feels. I mean, just ask.
And also, as Google shows, because whenever you start typing in a question on Google, it will come up. And you're like, yes.
Yeah, somebody's asked
Though I
it
do
before.
obviously still ask Google. I obviously use Google like it still asks Jeeves, because I'm still forming a question. Why do I need to do that? It's not asked Jeeves. It just needs to be keywords, guys. It doesn't need to be a whole question. Google's actually listening.
Please.
Someone said a really interesting thing. Pardon?
I put a question mark and everything.
Yeah,
right. Someone's asked an interesting question. Did you find that there was more information and support for breastfeeding mums than formula? So I know, like Rosie, I know you switched over, and then Frankie, you did as well. Did you feel like you were supported in that, and that you could find knowledge where you needed to, or were you literally having to look at the back of packs and make up your own? Like, make it up as you went along?
The latter. Yeah, I had to look at back of packs, ask my sister. That's one thing for me that I really struggled with. I thought I was going to be like Earth Mother, breastfeeding, walking around with my boobs out and a baby on my boob 24/7. And it just didn't work. It just would not work. And I was absolutely devastated. The lactation lady came, me and Robin lay in bed for an hour and a half while she tried to literally put my nipple in his mouth, and he was crying. Then he was licking my nipple, and it was just horrible and weird, and it didn't work, and I gave up. And but yeah, there's not a huge amount of support for bottle feeding mums, which is such a shame, but it's getting better. And my advice for that would be just ask Google, ask somebody. There's loads of bottle feeding mums about, so just ask someone if you do know anyone. That's what I did, and then just
I think it's
give
such
them
a
an extra
shame as
scoop
well.
so they sleep better. Yeah.
Ooh. I think it's just such a shame as well when it's something that people feel so disappointed by or judged for, that there isn't that support to take away that judgment when it's not necessary. Like, you're feeding your baby, you're doing the best thing that is like that you can. So you need to be supported, however that happens.
Yeah, I think there's like such a lot of like shame attached to it. And I think like I breastfed Parker for about a month, and then I was kind of the same. I'm actually like not a very shy person. Like, G's probably seen my boobs enough. Like, I'm not like that bothered. But like all of a sudden, when you're breastfeeding, I didn't feel comfortable doing it out and about, and I felt really isolated because if anyone was in the house, I'd have to go off for an hour, and I could never get the latch by having a top on and doing it, under. So there was too much faffing, and in the end, I got too engorged, and Parker couldn't latch, and that's when I was like, right, he was crying at me, I was crying at him, and I was like, enough's enough. And I didn't know that that's why he couldn't latch on, because I just didn't know enough about it. So with Carter, I kind of went into it a little laid back, and I breastfed him for a month because I felt like I had to, because I'd done that for Parker. And we ended up having someone come and help me with Carter because he was cluster feeding. So I was feeding for 3 hours at a time, like every hour. And I had a toddler that I felt so guilty about not spending all my time with. And I just remember this woman walking through the door, and Carter was on my boob, and I just like shoved him in her face and was like, just help me, I can't do it anymore. And she was like, okay. And it turned out one of my boobs just didn't give as much milk as the other. And I had no idea that was even a thing. So he was hungry all the time. And I remember having tell her at one point after a while that I was going to go to bottle, and I felt like she was going to be really disappointed in me that I was now switching to formula. And you still do kind of get that thing when I think even, you know, like the midwives come around when you've had the baby, and even they kind of give you the look or the, oh, you know, breast is best. And it's like, we know that now. Like, we all know the science that breastfeeding and, you know, the milk is so much better, but also there are amazing options out there. And actually, as we all say, fed is best. And there's enough guilt and enough shame and enough worry with being a parent that you just don't need that. You should just be supported either way.
Totally. I totally agree.
I couldn't agree more. And inevitably, you've got to feed your kids. Like, you know, it's like whether you're breastfeeding or you're bottle feeding. I breastfed because that was just what was convenient and worked with my lifestyle at the time. However, the day she took a bottle, and oh my God, it was a challenge. Every different tea. My mum was getting one from the pound shop, then she was getting ham, and then you got all these opinions. I was like, Mum, I don't need this baby on a bottle. I can't do it anymore all by myself. Anyways, it took a good a good 2 weeks, and the night she took a full bottle. For 6 months, I've been breastfeeding her, loving it. Like, oh my God, you know, I'm like Mother Earth. Formula, she slept the whole night through. I couldn't believe it.
Extra scoop. Get that extra scoop in. They'll sleep all night.
Trying to keep her the best. And the night, I don't know if it was fluke, but the night she took the formula, it made me laugh so much. I was like, she decides to sleep the whole night through. You know, horses for courses. It's whatever suits with your lifestyle and what you feel comfortable with. Like, not everyone wants to get their tits out in public or even on their own. It is a really daunting thing and a really weird sensation. So I think if I were to do it again, I'd go mixed feeding from day dot.
I'm a breastfeeder, so all mine were breastfed. But I find it's funny, isn't it? Because I always thought people always argue that one is easier than the other, and that if you bottle feed, it's a bit like the whole birth debate, isn't it? One is better, one is easier. But I had my nephew once, and he was bottle fed. And I was like, you get up at 2 a.m. and go downstairs and put the kettle on? No, mate. Like, I just flop a tit out and I'm like, all you can eat buffet, help yourself. And I suddenly thought this whole, even, and my own biases, I guess, for a long time I felt like, oh, if you bottle feed, it's easier. It's not. I was like, I could not get up in the middle of the night and make a bottle. Are you crazy? Like, I thought I had it hard. And actually, they both have their, you know, pros and cons, don't they?
See, I've got to say, so I have always thought that breastfeeding is easy because it is literally a case of getting your boob out. You're not going to sterilise all this stuff. Although I'd say my journey in breastfeeding was tricky and it took a long time to get there. So eventually it became easy. But then I had, again, my nephew here and I was doing the bottles up. I mean, there are amazing machines now where literally all you have to do is...
Tummy tipping.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? This is insane.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
so
I had
easy.
two of them.
Even temperature. Oh,
Amazing. I had one
But
upstairs in the
scoops.
bedroom, one down.
Does anyone forget how many scoops you put in? When I was doing my nephews, I was like, 1, 2, was that 3? Was it 4? Was it 3 or 4? Was it? And then we'll just all do a
Whack
race
it
and
in.
chuck another one in. We'll be like,
Oh, mate, I was terrible,
I'll be
mate. I was
alright.
like, oh, that's why he was so
About that
big.
today. There was like one of those memes going around, and it was like, if you talk to me while I'm counting the scoops, I'm gonna kill you. And it was so that like baby screaming, you're like trying to concentrate, and then someone says something, and you're like, "Fuck's sake, I've got to start again." And you're like,
Yeah.
Oh my God, we're talking about all of this. I am not prepared for this baby at all. This is like, oh, I feel like I got PTSD. This is bringing up, just talking about scoops. I'm like, shit, scoops.
You'll be
Oh my
fine.
God. Oh my God.
oh, bless you. We were talking, so we talked about judgment there. Have you been surprised at how much judgment and guilt you have felt since becoming a mum?
Yeah.
from the minute you're pregnant, I think, just from the minute, everyone has so much to say. And I think if you're a first time parent, you're so impressionable and you try and take so much of it on. And actually you do figure it out in the end, like you're going to, but you do, but it's so hard to like not listen to those people. Like I had my biggest thing worst was, I remember just this moment of when I was out for dinner and I ordered a steak and I was like, oh, can I have it well done? And someone was like, oh, you're not eating it like not rare because you're pregnant, are you? And I was like, yeah. And he went, oh, well, my mum seen fags when I was a baby.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Good job, good job.
yeah, well done.
And I've got a really bad cough and I don't know why.
Right, I know that raw steak probably is going to do nothing, but if something happened tonight and something went wrong with my pregnancy, I know how my brain works, and I would convince myself that that was why that thing happened, and that's why I didn't do certain things when I was pregnant. And that's what I found quite hard. And I think the more kids you have, the easier it is to kind of cut that out, but it's really difficult, I think.
No, I'm 3 down and I still find it. I still find it quite hard. It's the unsolicited advice. It's you're not asking for it and they just want to give it to you. And then it's like, no matter what you do, you can't do right. And I can't understand why we don't just care more about the mental well-being of each other. Becoming a parent is you're so vulnerable, and all we care about is everyone doing it right. There is no right way. Every parent, every child is so different. And I remember going to see a friend when she just had her baby. And obviously, you know, I love breastfeeding. It's my thing, but it's not everyone else's. And I totally get that. And I remember her being like, she was so nervous to tell me that she'd stop feeding because she thought I'd give her this big lecture. And I was like, no way. I was like, what's important to me is your well-being as my friend, and that you and your baby are happy. That, like, I don't care. If you need me to breastfeed your baby, I'll breastfeed your baby. Like, that's fine. If you want me to make you a bottle, I'll make you a bottle. I'll do whatever you need me to do as your support network. And it really riles me when I see, especially online, the judgments and the like cutting and the I wouldn't have done it that way. Well, nobody cares, mate. Like, that's great. Your kids turned out not so great, so whatever. Because they're judgy too. Like, just let us all do it.
A large part of that, though, and I do think it feeds into what we say to others, is actually how we have judged ourselves in that moment, in the things that we do. I think we're constantly judging ourselves as we're doing it. And then, and I feel like those comments online stem from that as well. Yeah. And it's just really hard. And I think you've just got to kind of brush it aside and go, I'm not even gonna.
And it's hard when you're feeling vulnerable, isn't it? I always just want to give people a pat on the back and say, just getting up and doing what you're doing every day is awesome. I just wish people would do that more, so we could brush off when people
I'm one of those people. I'm like an old woman when I see someone out with like a little baby. I'm like, well done for getting out.
Cutting up their dinner while the breastfeeding. You're doing great. You're doing great.
Yeah, or when the kids are having a tantrum, I'm like, don't worry, we've all been there. Because you just want to reassure them, don't you? When the kids are losing their shit, you're like, it's fine, we've all been there, don't worry about it.
Because you don't want to be the person that's going past, rolling their eyes, tutting and adding to a situation, making that mum sweat even more. Just like make them know that it's fine. Like kids do this. Like Rosie, I know that you've had moments before with Rob, and you've just let him have his tantrum. Like just he'll be over it in a minute.
Well, sometimes I feel like poor Robin, I really kind of plays behaviour down quite a lot because he's a nice kid. But sometimes to make other mums feel better, I'll be like, mine's an arsehole. And I'll tell them all these awful things about Robin. And I just to hope that it makes him feel better. Then I think, oh, he's not actually that bad. I'm just slag him off all the time. But I think it's nice to hear normal stories because when you're a mum, you judge yourself enough. Like the judgment that I give myself and the guilt that I feel every day, I don't need it from anybody else. Like I do it enough myself. So yeah, but luckily, like there is a lot of crap online and people can give you stuff. But I've also had some really lovely advice from people, especially like I'm really lucky that I've got a mum and a sister who've been amazing and then friends who've had kids. So I think if you're getting it from the right places, advice can be good as well. Yeah.
I think it's important to like scoop it up and then just dismiss.
Take the bits that you want to take. Totally.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Kimmy on Facebook has written, co-sleeping and letting baby nap on you also seems to divide opinion as much as feeding. Why can't people just accept that each family will do what works for them and how to get the most sleep to get you through the day, especially having a toddler too? It's so true. I can remember a friend of mine when Buzz was he was definitely over 6 months, and a friend of mine who had a 2-year-old going, oh yeah, she's dropping her nap now. She's no longer having her daytime nap on me and stuff. I'm missing those snuggles in the day. Being like, what? That's a thing. Like the book said I had to put him down every nap. Like, what is this joyous thing that I'm not having? And there is that whole, I think there's so much said about that. And I think it all probably stems from a certain book by a certain lady who has the surname like a car. But, it's all that thing where you feel like...
Your baby in the eye. Did not at the eye. That one really got night time, like your baby if you want it to go back to sleep.
No patting or shushing after the first 3 times. Leave the room. Exit the room.
Has anyone ever done that thing?
I've read it too.
I just moved out of my bed, and one is 7 on Sunday, and the other one's 5. So I'm like I'm like the worst person to talk to about co-sleeping because I fucking love it. I hate that they're in their own bed now.
Do you know what, Frankie? My sister told me something. My sister told me something really sad. So I used to be really strict with Robin in his own bed because I just thought that was what you had to do. And now he goes to sleep in his own bed every night. He's great. But then he always comes in our bed. And my sister said to me, her boys are 11 and 12 now. And she was like, Rosie, he'll stop coming in and you'll be gutted. And I was like, oh. And then that stuck with me now. So me and Chris are kind of like, well, he's only 5. And I love getting a cuddle in the middle of the night off him. And I just think, yeah. You'll not be there forever, so I'm enjoying it.
What gets me about moments like that is that will happen at some point, or you'll be able to pick him up and you won't pick him up again, but you'll never know that was the last time. You'll just go, he's not been in my bed.
Oh, don't, because that really upsets me, that little scene.
I'm like,
that really upsets
horrendous.
Me. What is going on?
I know.
I'm crying.
I'm so sorry, Rosie.
It's all right. No, it's
Rosie's like, can I leave now?
It's just because he sleeps in my... It's because I always think about my sister when she's like... She said it, so she was like, he'll stop coming in, and I was like... And then the last time you pick him up... Oh.
I've got to
I
say,
am
so
so
Nicole on
pregnant.
YouTube. Nicole on YouTube said, I remember going to baby sensory and my son was the only child crying. And another mum said to me, don't worry, it was mine last week. Made me feel so much better. It's so true.
that's nice.
But yours one week, someone else's another. I love that. Guys, Jolene on Facebook said, this chat is amazing, just like being with my girls. I love that. So with that, ladies, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Honestly, I've had such a... we could have talked for so long, and it's been absolutely brilliant.
Hours.
Rosie, I'm so sorry we've ended on you crying.
It's all right.
But
Honestly, why? Oh, so pregnant. Crazy.
But thank you so much for joining me, and everyone, thank you so much for watching. If you want to watch all the other videos from Happy Mum Happy Baby, the virtual meetup, head to happymumhappybaby.com and you can just watch them all, and there'll be more going up over the weekend, so please enjoy. Thank you so much. Thank you to Pura for making all this magic happen, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.
Thanks,
Thanks, ladies.
Bye.